Hello guys, welcome back. Picking up right from where we stop, we are going to start implementing the password reset functionalities and maybe the logout and also the social authentication. And you remember in our last video, we implemented the user login and also the JSON web token generation for the user. So that's what we're going to be doing for this very video. Alright, so when the user may forget their passwords, they request for a new password. So we're going to create simple endpoints for users to request for password reset. So we're going to call it password reset request view. And this we need to specify the serializer class, which we've not created. So we'll create a serializer for this. So we're going to create serializer. Alright, so this does not exist yet. So we do that. So initially what we want to do here is basically send a post request. So we're going to define a post request, which is going to take in self and request. So here the user is going to provide their email, which is the registered email. Alright, so we receive the email, we validate it, send it to serializer, and then the serializer will check if a user with that email exists in our site. If a user with that email exists in our site, we will send the user an email with a link to update their password. So here we're going to create a variable called serializer. As always, here we're going to set the self.serializer class. Here the data is going to equals the request to data, and also want to pass the context to. So we're going to say the context, which is going to be the request. Want to pass our request. So we have that there. So once we have this, we can check if the serializer is valid. So serializer dot is underscore valid. Then we want to raise exception, set it to true. So let's quickly create the serializer now so that everything we have to work fine. So we just grab this name and make sure we bring it into our import. In our serializer, we just somewhere after the login serializer, we just create a class and make it that. So this is going to be the serializer.serializer feed. Just a serializer, not a model serializer this time. And we just need just one feed, which is just the email. Serializer.email feed. Alright, so we can just put in a mass length. Here we're gonna have just a class meta. Here we're gonna have just feeds, and the feed is just gonna be just our email. So we're gonna define the validate method. Alright, so here is where we're going to perform the logic to validate the email that the user is sending to us, to check if a user with that email exists, and if a user with that email exists, we want to send an email to the user with the reset password and link. So in here we need to get the email from the attributes, get. Alright, so once we get the email that the user sent, we need to check if this user is in our database. So if user objects filter, there the email that is being presented is equal to the email. We want to check if he exists. We say dot exist. If the user exists, then we need to get the user. I say user will not be equals to the user dot object dot get. Alright, so we get the user. So once we get the user, what we want to do is we want to generate a token with this user and encode the user ID so that we can pass it to the URL, which is the link that we are going to send to the user as email, so that when the user clicks on the link, we'll be able to grab the user ID from the link. So for us to do that, we need to import some utilities from Django. First, we need to import from Django.contrib.auth.token. We want to import the password reset token generator. So once we have that, we also want to import from Django.uts.encoding. We want to import the smart byte and want to import the URL safe encoding. So we're going to say from Django.uts.http. They want to import the URL encode, 64 encode. Then also we need to import the smart byte here from Django So these are the things we'll be using for now. So in here we need to create a UID for base64. So you can use any name and just give it a variable of UID base64. This is just going to be the URL safe encoding. So we're trying to encode the username, the user ID. So say smart bytes converting using the user.id. And so we need to generate a token. So say token using the password generate token. Using the password reset token generator, then we want to call the make token. Alright, so we want to make a token for this user. Alright, which is the user. So what we are actually doing here is for the user to actually for us to confirm the identity of the user. Here we get the user object, then we try to encode the user ID into a URL, a readable string. Then we generate a token for this user, so that when we are trying to when the user is trying to reset the password, we'll be able to identify the user from the back, from the front end. Next, we need to get our request from our context. So we're going to say request equals to self.context our request. Alright, so once we do this, we need to import get current site from django.contrib.sites.shortcut. We need to import the get current site. So in here we want to just use you can call it site domain. Once it equals to the get current site, which we take a request. Alright, they want to get .domain. Actually, this will give you the domain of the site, alright, which is our current site, because we want to construct the URL. But this should be the domain of the front-end application that is going to be receiving this link, because if we are going to be using it to the front-end app, it's on a different domain. But if the front-end and the back-end is on the same domain, this works fine. But if they are on different domain, this should be the domain of your front end. Alright, so once we have that, we can start constructing our relative link. So we need to import reverse also. So in here we're going to use reverse, and the endpoint that we want to get, we don't have this endpoint yet, so we're going to just say password -reset confirm. Alright, so this particular view endpoint has not been created yet. We'll create it shortly. That is the view that the user will be redirected to when they click the refresh password or reset password link. Alright, so this we need to pass in keyword args, which is going to be our user UID base64, and also our token. Alright, so we're passing this into the URL that we are redirecting to. Alright, so that will give us the related part of our URL. Then once we have that, we want to create an absolute URL, which is going to contain the whole part. So this we're going to make it an F string, and here we're going to just say http/localhost. Alright, so sorry, not localhost, so http/ then we have our current site, which is the base URL. So here we can just append the current site, which is going to be our site domain. Alright, so that will happen the slash, then after that we want the relative link, which is going to be our relative link. Alright, so this will give us our absolute URL. So this is what we want to add to our email message. So here we're going to construct the email body, and here we just construct a very simple message. So here what we're going to do is we're going to create a very simple utility function to send an email, and we're going to pass in the different data that we need to send an email to that function to send an email. So we're going to create a very simple object here, or dictionary, which is going to contain all the items that we're going to send to our send email function. So we're going to create a send email or send normal email. Remember we did one send normal email, and then we're going to pass this data dictionary to this function. Alright, so we've not created this function yet. We create this function in our utils.py file, but in here we just construct our basic email content. So in here we're going to have the email body, which is the body we've already constructed, the email subject, which is going to be reset your password, and the to email, which is going to be the user email. Pass it in here. Alright, so we need to import this from utils. So from our own, say from .utils, we're going to import. Alright, which we don't have yet. So we'll go back to in here. We're going to create the function. it's going to be receiving the data. So in here, you just basically send email function. So I'm going to just grab it and bring it in. Alright, so we're just going to use our email message class from Django. And we're going to pass in the subject, which is going to be our data.image subject. We're going to pass in the body, data.email body. Then the from email is going to be our own host email. Alright. So here the tool is going to be from the tool which is part of the data that we passed in here, and we just want to send the email. So we'll save this and we head back. Alright, so once we do that, that's fine. We want to head back to the view and just return a simple message respond of an email has been sent to you. Alright, to reset your password. So in here we're just going to return a respond. It's just going to contain a simple message. Alright, so a simple message that says a link has been sent to your email to reset your password. Here we can just put in a status 200. Alright, so that will be all. Yeah, so what next? We need to create the confirm password reset endpoint, which is going to be the endpoint that is going to the user is going to be redirected to when they click the reset password and link. So we're going to create the class. I'm going to just call it password reset confirm, and this is also going to inherit generic API view. So in here we're going to handle a get request, because once the user clicks the link, the UID base64 and the token is going to be sent to the URL. So when the user click on that link, it redirect them to this view, and in this view, once we have the token, we have the UID, we are going to present a new form for them to put in their new password. So in here we're going to define the get method, and this is going to take in self request and our UID base 64 and the token that we are passing in. Alright, so all these are going to be coming from our URL. So here we're going to do a try and catch, try and accept me. Alright, so basically what we're going to do here is first we need to validate the token and the UID that is coming from our request here and get the user from it, because remember we are encoding the user ID into this UID base 64. So we are going to decode it and get the user ID, then query for the user object. Another thing, we need to make sure that this user is using this token just once, and the token is not being reused over again. So if, for example, maybe the user have used that particular token and is trying to reuse it again, we should be able to throw an error that maybe the token has expired or it's invalid. So we need to import some utilities also. So we're going to head to our imports area, and in here we're going to import from Django.utils.http. In here we're going to import the URL, save the code. Alright, so we need to import from Django.utils.encoding. Here we're going to import the smart string and also the Django Unicode decode error. Alright, so this is what we're going to import for now. Then we also need to import our password reset generator from Django.contrib.auth.token. We're going to import the password reset token generator, because this is what we're using to validate the token. Our view here, in here, first of all, we need to extract the user ID from our encoded UID base 64. So in here, we're going to use the URL decode UID B64. Alright, so we need to wrap this with the smart string. Alright, so this will give us a user ID. So in here we can now get a user, which we're going to use the user objects to say user with objects with get where ID equals to our user ID. So once we do that, secondly we want to also check the token. So we need to import user. So in here we're going to just say if not password reset token generator dot check token. This gives us a function to check token, and this expects two things. It expects the token that we want to check and the user object. So we pass in our user and also the token. So we are trying to verify if the user that is in the token is also the same user that is actually performing this operation, or the user that is being encoded in the UID. So if this is not the case, we want to return a response of error. So that will be, we return a response with the message of the token is invalid or has expired. Our passing is a status of 401, which is on Terrace. Alright. In that case, if the token is valid against the user, we also want to return a successful response to let the user know that okay, this is a valid token and the user that is being passed is the user that is expected to be. So in here we'll pass in a different message. So here we'll pass to the response a success and parameter of true and the message of saying the credential is valid. We pass the UID and also we pass the token and return the 200 response. Alright, so that's for this. Then if, for example, we have any exception, maybe we want to catch the exception of the Django Unicode decode error, so return a response of probably the same thing that we have here, of the token is invalid or has expired. So we're returning the same response if we have this Django and Unicode decode error. So that's for this view. Alright, so this is just to confirm the identity of the user in our token. So once we have this already, we can send that token and that UID with the new password that the user wants to send. So we're going to create a separate endpoint for that. Alright, so in our front end, when the user clicks on the link, it will redirect them to a rat, which is going to be the same rat where we confirm the token and the UID of the user. Then the user will now enter their new passwords. So we're going to create a view now to do that. Also going to be a class-based view. So we're going to call set new password, and this is also going to be a generic view, generic API view. Alright, so basically in this view we want to make a post request. Just taking the request. Alright, so here we also need a new serializer now, which we call serializer class is going to be set new password serializer. So let's create the serializer, grab the serializer, put pass for now, import it from our serializer. So here can bring it in here. So let's go to our serializer.py and let's quickly create that serializer.
This is going to extend from serializer, and here we'll need to have the password feed, which is going to be serializer.char feed, mask length 100, mil length 6, write only. So we want this to be write only. So we also need a confirmed password. It's going to be the same thing, serializer.char feed too. Alright, so also we need the UID B64. Alright, so this also will be serializer.char feed. Also I'm going to make this write only, and also we're going to get the token char feed also, so write only. Alright, now you may ask why we are providing the UID B64 encoded and string and also the token for the set new password. The reason being that for us to actually update the password of a user, we need to identify the user that wants to change the password. So that's the reason why we are providing the UID P64 and the token. So from the front end, this will be sent along with the request. So this we need to define the class of meta, and we need to define the feeds, confirm password, UID P64, and the token. Alright, so that's the feed that we're passing in. Then we need to define the validate method too.
In here we just want to get all the feeds from these attributes. So we'll get the token, get the UID, we'll get the password and the confirm passwords from our attribute.get. Alright, so once we have that, we also want to decode the UID from this UID base 64. So we need to make some imports from our Django.ut's. Then from .encoding, we also want to import the first string. We need this, and we also need the URL safe decode. Alright, so we want to import the URL safe base64 decode. Alright, so we need those two. In here we create a variable called UID to get the UID, and we call the first string, which you take in the URL decode, and want to decode the UID base64. Alright, so this will give us our UID. Then we need to get the user object, so we'll say user. So once we have the user object, we can also check if the token is still valid at this point. Also going to do the check just like the way we did. If not, password reset token generator dot check token, and here we want to pass the user against the token that we have here. So if it is not the user, so in here we want to return an authentication error. So we just raise authentication fee, reset link is invalid or has expired. All right, so that's for that. Then also we want to also create another validation, make sure that the password and the confirm password match, because that's the purpose of the confirm password, is actually to check if password is correct. So we're going to also create another if the password we have is not equals, we also want to raise another error. Authentication fee password do not match. All right, so if everything is okay, we want to call the user dot set password and pass in our password. All right, so once we pass in the password, we want to call the user dot save. Then we want to return the user. All right. All right, so to be safe, to catch any error, we can just put this in the try and accept block. So in here we just create a try block, and we just indent all these and catch an exception. So in here we can just say accept as an exception. We can just say as E. We also want to return authentication fee, link is invalid or have expired. Alright, so that's all about our validation. So we need to take this out. Alright, so once we have that already, we can head back to our view and continue from where we stop. In our view, this ought to be a patch method, not a post method, because we're actually updating the password feed. So sorry about that. So this should be a patch method. Then once we do that, we will need to get a serializer or define a serializer variable. So serializer equals to self.serializer class, passing the data that user is bringing in. Then we want to get this serializer.is valid raise exception for. They want to return a response basically. Alright, so basically we just want to send a message to the user that the password has been reset. So we just create a message. And here we can put the status of 200. Alright, so that will be for our view. So we can test our forget password endpoint now. So before we do that, let's quickly bring these views into our url.py file. Alright, so here we're going to just try and import those views, the password reset confirm and the password reset request. And lastly, we have set password, set new password. Here we're going to bring in the password reset, which is going to be our password reset and request view. That will be the first one. Then we can just duplicate it. Then this will be password reset confirm. And this we're going to change it to password reset. And make sure that this URL and this URL name is exactly the same name that we have in our serializer. Alright, so this should be the name. So let's just grab this. What we have here should be the name for this endpoint. Password reset confirm. So lastly, we're going to have the set new password. And I said it's going to be set new password. So this is going to be our set new password view. And secondly, remember that this view is receiving a token and also a UID. So here we're going to pass in the UID v64, and here we're going to save a token. Alright, once we have our URL set properly, we can save our files and also save our view. We can test our password reset view. So heading to Postman, let's quickly try to reset the password for this user, which is test user 2. So we can just try and create a new endpoint for password reset. So we call it password reset. It's going to be a post request and it's expecting just an email. So we can make it raw and set it to JSON, and here we just want to provide an email, which is going to be this email. So we're going to provide the email and then send. This may take up some time because we're actually sending an email. Alright, we got a message that a link has been sent to your email to reset your password. Alright, so that view is actually working fine. So if we head to our email server, we can see we got a new email say reset your password. Fine, so this is working fine. So if we hit this, you can see the URL to reset your password with our UID and our token. Alright, so we can actually grab this URL, but this will be handled by our front end. But if we grab it and come to Postman, try to send a request, a GET request to this URL, which we have password reset confirmed, the name and all that. That's the second URL that's expected of us. If we send a GET request to this URL, hit send, you can see we have success, message, credential is valid, UID and token. That's fine. So now we can send the new password that we want to send. Here is going to be a patch request. Don't forget, it's a patch request. Then here we have a alright. So this time we are sending a patch request to /API/version1/auth/set new password. This is a patch request, and this is going to expect some body data. And you can use let's use form data for this. Alright, so it's expecting the password, confirm, let's go password, and also expecting the UID, and lastly is expecting the token. So these are the feeds that we have to send to this endpoint. So remember, in our previous request we already have the UID value, which is this value. So grab this value, and also for the token, which we already have here. So if you pass in our token, then here in our password, we can decide to change our password. So let's say our previous password was password W4321. So let's change it to something else this time. Let's just change it to Henry. Alright, so we change our password, we pass in the new password that we want, we pass in the UID, we pass in the token. Alright, so once we have these values, we can send our patch request, and you can see we have a password reset successfully with a 200 request. Alright, so if we try to log in this time with our new password, let's check if our password has really been changed. So if we enter Henry 4321, so if we hit a send request, you can see we get a 200 OK, which means the password has actually been reset. We can log in now with our new password. So now we can log in with our new password, so everything is actually working as expected. Alright, so before I end this video, I'll quickly talk about how we can enforce logout. Alright, so normally JWT does not provide mechanisms for us to actually log out the user, because the way JWT works, your token expires at a specific time, and also when the token access token expires, the refresh token is used to get a new access token, and when the refresh token expires, your user is automatically logged out. So the way we are going to do, or the way we are going to create a logout for our API, we are going to kind of enforce the refresh token to expire by blacklisting the token. So that's a popular mechanism that we also use in JWT to practice logout. Django REST framework, simple JWT, it gives us a way to blacklist tokens. So we'll go to the simple JWT authentication package that we use for our JSON Web Token. It actually comes with a blacklist app. If you check, you see the blacklist app. Alright, so for us to actually integrate that feature into our REST API, we need to include the REST API underscore simplejwt.token blacklist. So we need to bring this into our install app, and once we have this in our install app, we need to also make migration. So we grab this. Alright, in our settings here, we can just add that in. Alright, so we save this and we need to make migration, and you can see it says you have 11 on applied migration. So let's just quickly cancel that. Migrate. So we're going to migrate. So this will integrate the blacklist app features for us. So once we have that, we can create our own custom view that is going to log out the user. So we're going to just create a logout view just below the set user password. We'll just create another view which we just call logout. We're also going to make this a generic API view. So this also, we're going to create a serializer class which we've not created. We'll do that now. So we'll just call it logout user serializer. And we also need a permission class because the user has to be authenticated for the user to be able to log out. So we're going to use the is authenticated, and we also need to import that. I guess we imported it before. Let's check. All right, so we have is authenticated. So we need to bring in that serializer. We import the serializer. We need to create the serializer now. So before that, we're going to define our post method. Remember, we're going to be posting the refresh token. Before we come back to this post request, let's quickly create this serializer class. With class, I'll call it a serializer class. It's going to inherit from serializer.serializer. In here, we just need the refresh token, and it's going to be serializer.chatfeed. Okay, so then we're also going to define a validate method. Alright, so this validate method is to import the refresh token from simplejwt. So from simplejwt, we're going to see from REST framework simplejwt dot tokens. We want to import the refresh token and the token error. So in our validate here, we are going to just create a self.token, which we're going to make it our own token, which is attribute.get refresh token. Once we have that, we basically want to return the attribute. So that's all we're doing, return it. So also we need to override the save method. Alright, so in this save method, we're going to put in the try and except. Sorry, we're going to say except we have a token error, we want to do something else. So basically what we want to do is the token, we're going to say token, we're going to use the refresh token that we imported, and this we need to pass in the token that's the refresh token that we are getting. So we're going to say the self.token, and remember we assign our refresh token to self.token. So once we have that, we can blacklist the token by using the token.blacklist. So that will blacklist the token for us. Then if we have a token error, we want to return a self.fail. Alright, and this is going to pass in the key of the default error. So we're going to just say bad token. Alright, so we can just construct this. This self.take is a helper method that simplifies raising. You can see a helper method that simply raises a validation error. So the key of this method is what we call bad token. So we can actually set it somewhere here. We can just say the default error message is equals to an object where we have that key, which is the bad underscore token, and this we want to set it to our own custom message by saying the token is alright. So that will be our default error message that this key is going to return for us. Alright, so that will be for our serializer here. So once we blacklist the token, post method here, obviously we want to set our serializer. I want to pass the data attribute, which is going to be our request data. Here we're going to say serializer dot is valid, session to be true. If this serializer is valid, we want to call the save method by calling serializer dot save. So once we have that, we can return a response, no content found. Alright, in this case, our front end, what we do in our front end is the front end, we have to keep clear the state of the access token and blacklist the refresh token. So we can't actually test this logout effectively here, except when we are integrating with the front end. Alright, so we actually be able to test this endpoint when we integrate with the front end. So bring this into our url.py file. So we just grab this view, duplicate one of all these view, we change it to logout, and we change this to logout view, and this should be logout. Alright, so we have our logout view. So I'm going to end this video here because the video is already getting too long. In our next video, we'll see how we implement the social authentication and also how to build our React front end for our REST API authentication service. Then we'll also test out this logout. Alright, so don't forget to subscribe and also don't forget to give this video a thumbs up. See you guys in the next video.